Real estate in Cleveland may not always yield the expected returns. It is important to do thorough research and do your due diligence before making any purchases. Be sure to consult with industry professionals and trusted advisors to understand the local market, economy, and potential risks. In this episode, we are joined by Kush, who is working in commercial loans, who will share his experience and advice to those who are mesmerized by Cleveland investing. All this and more on the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Another episode of Cleveland Real Estate Investor. And with me is one of our, reluctant clients, Kush from Kush, you're in Santa Barbara, but you're actually from the Bay Area of San Francisco, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm based in the SF Bay Area, just doing some remote traveling right now. So current locations in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, well, I say reluctant client. Well, tell our audience around the world the story of Beechwood, your Beechwood rental.
Oh man, yeah, and like how we came to you, huh? So this is a long story,
but we'll condense it. That's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, spanning several years. So connecting with contractor, local contractor, real estate investor that sold the dream of buying a fixer and putting in the work, splitting the responsibilities where you have that local on hands person to do the contracting, permitting, find a tenant, work with the city, get the materials, and you provide the capital, and you check in, weekly calls, see the progress, and then all of a sudden it's ghost town. So what happened there? Then trying to trace back what was the last thing that went wrong, and realizing, okay, were the permits pulled, were all these steps followed, and dealing with a city such as Cleveland Heights, where very stringent about certain policies, also around the time of COVID shutdown. So it's not easy to connect with the building department or the housing department, or even between them, building and housing department. There's a lot of communication gaps. So this is a story that a lot of things fell through the cracks. Paperwork was lost.
Sounds like everything.
Contractors were ghosted.
Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. So
exactly.
So let me sum it up. So you decided, hey, I'm going to buy some property in Cleveland, right?
Correct.
And you went to a realtor who sold you this house on Beechwood as a fixer-upper. How did you hire your contractor? You just called around?
So contractor came through actual recommendations from other local investors. And the interesting thing here was, we had spent maybe 50 to 100 hours talking, looking at properties. Hadn't met in person at this point yet, but, felt like we had done our due diligence through the amount of time we spent on the phone, going through different business ideas, different business plans. They definitely had a track record of being that local seasoned contractor agent combo. I think the problem was he just took on way too many projects at the same time, and they all just kind of blew up together in a miraculous fashion.
Right.
So
you got too big too fast, and then you were assuming he was going to get this work done, and then you were going to sell the house, flip it?
The idea, yeah, exactly. So the idea was to flip single family homes while acquiring small multifamily apartments. So just another way to build capital with the long-term goal of acquiring multifamily apartments. And so we had other projects going on in the area. So this was just one of them, but it just never seemed to make any progress. So then we started looking into, what's going on here? Why are timelines just dragging on? Let's we had also visited the property a couple times throughout the process, and everything, seemed on the up and up, and miraculously, oh, just got ghosted. Somewhere along the process got ghosted, and then it was left to us
He
to
disappeared.
figure out
For those,
exactly.
for those who aren't as hip as you, Kush, and my younger people, ghosted mean they just disappeared.
Radio silent there.
I know. So
And
you're stuck with a
and so
house.
the problem at this point was a lot of the work had been done, but there was no record of permits being pulled, or if they were pulled, they were incomplete. So, the next challenge was to finish the work, but what kind of contractor would want to come in and sign off on another person's work where that would put their reputation or themselves on the line? They don't know how the work was done. They don't know the quality of that work. So, there was just, it was very difficult to find anybody willing to do that. And we managed to find another contractor, but even then, something went wrong. So you may be thinking like, man, I just don't know how to pick the contractors, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Kush, you're a two-time loser now. Okay. So
Exactly. But then, did some more digging, kept hopes up, kept faith in, and found Reilly Properties. Originally looking on Airbnb, and then I noticed like you guys had a bunch of properties, so I just figured I'd reach out and see what could be done. Seemed like you had similar properties in the area. You guys were local,
right.
very reputable, and what one conversation later we were talking a bit, and things just went from there. You guys had the right relationships and were able to make things work quickly and cost effectively. I think that was the biggest thing, is like you guys were able to look at the problem, diagnose the problem, understand the problem, and then the solution was as simple as having the right conversation with the right person through
Yeah.
the connections that you guys have built.
As somebody once said, this is a big AA thing, it's simple, but it's not easy. Yeah. Once you get the right realtor, the right contractor, the right property manager, it's great. But unfortunately, it's very hard to do that, in my opinion, because the realtor, I mean, there's this anybody that's seen the movie Laura, 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 came out in the early 40s, one of the first of the film noirs about a detective. And he's going around, this detective played by Dana Andrews, and he's playing this baseball game, pocket game, where you got to get all three balls on first base, second base, third base. So of course, once you get first and second, you're trying to get third. Well, all of a sudden, first base falls out of the little, the holder. So it takes a lot of concentration. It takes a lot of, dexterity. And that's the three-legged stool in investing in real estate. You've got to have the realtor, the contractor, and the property manager. And I would say most of the people that I talk to here rarely get all three. Now, we're different because we already know the realtors, they work for us, we're the contractors, and we're also our own property managers. But that's our own portfolio. Then, depending on who we take on as clients, it really depends on one rule, which is, for me, well, actually two rules. One of them is location. They got to be close to where we're already at anyways, and you're 3 blocks from our building. And the second one is we gotta like the person. I mean, they gotta seem like a straight shooter, not just some bullshit artist. Obviously,
Right.
be working for Donald Trump, but I don't want to get into politics because we want to get paid. And I can always tell when somebody just, they got over their skis, they got sucked into the Cleveland real estate market, swamp. So, I mean, yours was a pretty easy thing to fix. There was some stuff that wasn't done right. We already know the city. We were able to get you right there. And then, we got one tenant in, and they were okay, but they left kind of a mess. We had to do their security deposit. We got another tenant in pretty quickly, and then they bailed, but then we were able to stem our losses by quickly getting another tenant. So right now you got a tenant in there. There is some work we had to do on some surprise work on some, I guess some support in the basement that we had to fix. But, now you're kind of back on track here, but it's still not something you wanted to do. You didn't want to be a landlord, right?
Right. It's kind of like a forced, me and my partner call this our failed abortion. We tried so many different ways to get rid of it, but just stuck with it. And it's working out to be nice, right? We have, like you said, the property management contractor in place with you guys. It's definitely, when we were underwriting this, weren't expecting nearly this close in rent. So it was a few years ago. So that's also been a pleasant, bump surprise. And seemingly the tenants, pretty amazing quality tenants, if you think about it. So
Yeah. And
now it's just time's gonna, do the rest of the magic.
you know what, I've made my share of mistakes, going back 10, 15 years. Now when somebody says, when I say, well, how's your credit score? Well, I'm working on it. That's usually, it's a hard no.
Non-starter.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, really, and I don't want to listen to any violins in the background, because this is a business transaction.
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. If you've been listening to this podcast, then you understand or should understand the pitfalls of investing in Cleveland real estate. Say you're looking for an investment property to rent, and these are the things that could happen and often do. You overpay for a house, and it's in the ghetto. Then you find that it's a money pit with endless surprise repairs. Your hapless property manager, who may be the brother-in-law of the realtor, gets a tenant who after 3 months stops paying the rent. Then the toilet explodes, and you have nobody to repair it because, guess what? The property manager is not answering the phone. Yep, that's the ugly side of the Cleveland real estate market. But we have a solution. Buy one of our properties. It's been inspected. It's been vetted. It's in a rock-solid part of town. It comes with a gold star tenant paying top dollar rent, and we manage it. Call us at 216-371-8160 if you're interested.
But, you're looking to sell the property, right? I mean, that's, maybe you sell it with the tenant in place, right? Or now maybe you're saying, all right, well, let's let this horse run a little bit, for another year or two.
Yeah.
Is that where you're at?
Yeah. That's where I'm thinking, let this horse run for a year or two. Now that we have the stability there, we've kind of worked a while to get here. So at least let's let it sit. Let's let it run.
Right.
See what can come of it. Just take a little bit at a time. There's, fortunately we're able to get a long-term fixed rate on it. So there's no real pressure to make a move.
Right.
So have that luxury of time, like that luxury of waiting, decide what we want to do.
Well, before we get into what you're doing, which is, what advice would you give to people in California, or Australia? I mean, France. I mean, we got people listening around the world, just mesmerized by Cleveland. What would you say to them if you're just sitting down having a drink with them?
There's a lot to love, right? There's a reason why there's many eyeballs and interest there to begin with. So that's a great, starting point. I think you alluded to this earlier, where you have the big three. You got the eyes, the ears, the hands of the property, if you think about it. So you'll have, you could be wherever as an investor, but you really need that local presence. You really need that trusted eyes and ears and hands to operate on and around the property. And so that could be one of the biggest challenges that an investor will have to overcome is one is finding the property, but then you need your team. So I can't stress how much that you really got to trust your team. You got to let them do what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe you got to talk to a few people before you figure that out, but that's definitely the number one thing to stress is property aside is you need the team, you need the management, you need the operations, you need that in place.
Right.
If you don't want to be doing it, right? I imagine most of your callers
I
are
don't know
investors who
why.
don't want to be doing that themselves.
Exactly. You know what? You can put your money in a money market fund and, let your money work that way, as opposed to getting into, like I had another investor, Karen, who's from Fresno, and real nice lady. She came in. I mean, she has an investment that's it really not working out. And the same thing with another guy, Andres, who I think you may have talked to. He has a house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And, he came into town, looked at it. And I just said, I told him, I said, there's just too much work here that you need. And, he agreed. So he's going to sell, and Karen's going to sell. And I mean, really, if you buy the wrong house and you underappreciate how much work this house needs, you're already in a hole. You don't want to be digging that hole deeper by putting more money in. And I think that
that's probably the biggest misconception, honestly. Like even when I was starting my home search, is like you see the sticker price and it's attractive, and then you think any repairs or maintenance can just be a little bit more. It won't affect us too much. When in reality, it's a huge chunk just to get things up to snuff, up to renting condition. So the starting condition is huge. The deferred maintenance is huge. You have to know the condition. You have to know, what you're getting into before even continuing.
Yeah, no, it's like buying now. People are realizing the pitfalls of buying real estate in Florida with the cost of insurance, flood insurance. If you're living on, near the ocean with global warming. So yeah, look at the streets are not paved in gold in Cleveland, and I think one way to look at it is, I think Cleveland, if you get the right house in the right area with the right team in place, it's going to be a slow go. It's not going to be LA, California. You buy a house and then, 2 years later, it's double in price. It just doesn't work that way here.
Right.
There is a few areas that have done that. Little Italy is one. If you had bought that, 10 years ago, I mean, it would tripled in value. Tremont was like that. These neighborhoods you hear about, Gordon Square.
Yeah. Ohio City,
right. I mean, but and you got to catch that wave when it's coming in. And Kensington in Cleveland Heights, where I forget his name, young guy, he bought it like 5 years ago, and now Kensington's kind of a hipster area. It's near Lee Meadowbrook, coffee shops there. I think the indicator of whether this is a good, viable breaking wave would be, are there coffee shops popping up? Or are there just more dollar stores? If they're dollar stores
right?
in that area, man, you stay away from that.
Yeah, or like check cashing places.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's just a sign. The market is sending these signals out, and it's like buying a used car. I mean, there's certain things you got to look for, just 200,000 miles driven in the snow and the salt. A lot of these cars just, they rust out from underneath. So
Right.
yeah, so it's tricky. It's not easy. So tell me a little bit about what you do, Kush.
Yeah. So right now, I do two things. So residential mortgage broker in California. So I do any sort of residential homes, condos, single family, second home, vacation home. And then nationwide, I do commercial loans. So I work for a company called Loan, and it's a marketplace lender. It's a lender neutral debt utility where it's essentially a database of lenders across the nation, and it we house all this data in almost like a real time database where we've built relationships with these lenders that come in our database every week, and they update, what are their credit requirements? What are they looking for? What is their credit committee going to approve right then and there? Whether it's the deal size, the deal location, what kind of work needs to be done on it? Is it stabilized? Is it value add? Do they need renovation money? What parameters around that they're already looking for? They've already green lighted. So these lenders come in our database every week, update that. So when we get a deal from a prospective borrower, a prospective investor, we can plug it into our database. We can shortlist out of the 700 lenders, we can shortlist it to 7 to 10 that are actually interested based on the parameters that we've given, and then go from there. Kind of work our way down to finding that out of those 10, we give more info, and it comes down to 3 or 5, and we create a little bit of a bidding war between these lenders to offer borrower the best terms.
Right, and then you get your as a broker on that.
Exactly.
So for somebody, this is more of a kind of a residential based investment podcast in Cleveland.
Right.
I mean, who's buying commercial space now? I mean,
Yeah. Well,
you and I are both working remote here, so it's
great question. So the thing about commercial is it's such a wide variety of, there's a lot of asset classes within it. You have office space, you have self-storage, you have apartments, you have warehouse. So it's very fragmented, right? And every lender does it differently. There's also a lot of construction going on. So definitely we're seeing a lot of office space being affected, and it's not easy to convert these into residential. It doesn't make sense in a lot of spaces. So definitely office is something that's affected, but you still have a pretty healthy demand for apartments, for warehouses, for self-storage.
Hey,
and
okay, all right, let me ask you this question. I've heard this thing about how it's real difficult to convert office space into living space. Really? Is it that hard? I mean, I'm thinking about how back before you were born, Kush, back in the 80s, when in New York, they were converting warehouse space into lofts, in Chelsea, Tribeca. I mean, all I got to do is see that great movie Big with Tom Hanks, one of my favorite movies, where, he buys this loft in Chelsea neighborhood. So why is it so hard to take an office building and just turn it into half living space, meeting place, coffee, on the first floor or ground floor? Why is that so hard?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it comes down to a few different things. One is the space required for windows. Windows in different units. So the perimeter of a floor could satisfy that, but the interior of a floor, how are the windows requirements going to be addressed for that? Individual plumbing, I'm not sure how that would work. either. So utilities conversion.
Right. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to
There,
make a buck there. It just seems
so
such a
so
need
there
for.
there would
Go
be
ahead.
a way, right? But it's what's going to be cost effective for an investor. Maybe, if there's a subsidized project where you get some tax incentives or county or city or state level incentives that could, offer some alleviation for some of the costs there. That could make it work.
Yeah.
But maybe a big part of it is it cost effective?
Right. Well, that's always what it is. Is it cost effective? But that's another discussion. So you're commercial and residential in California, but outside of that, it's just commercial, right?
Just commercial, exactly.
Okay.
And if, commercial could include like a portfolio of single family homes, that's considered commercial as well.
Really? Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now let's end on this plug. Okay. Now you got my attention. So let's say we have 20 homes that in our portfolio. Can you group all of those into a commercial loan?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So let's say I've got 20 homes that are worth 3 million. So when I said I want to just make sure I got some cash I can dip into, almost like a credit line, right? Or does
Yeah.
does it have to be like all right, well, walk me through. You tell me.
Yeah. So say it's going to depend on, what is borrower looking for? Are they looking to take cash out, apply it to another property, just take cash out to have? So do you want to, collateralize the whole group of homes? Say take a 70% loan to value. So
Right.
do you have existing debt? Are we refinancing, or is it, is everything free and clear, and we just want to a new debt on there?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a line of credit, be more of a loan. Like, here are the cash proceeds on the day of closing. You do what you want with them. We can put it into a 5-year term, 10-year term, 30-year term. The options are going to be there. The whole point of our database and as a broker is we create healthy competition where the lenders are fighting for this opportunity. So
for investors out there who've got a portfolio of homes and they just want to consolidate because they want to buy more homes, you'd be the guy to call, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Kush, give them your company name and your email so we can put
So again, company name's Calm Loan. We're based out of Arizona. My contact info, kmalde@calmloan.com. So K, letter K, MALDE at COMMLOAN.com. And you can always text or call me at 650-477-6147.
Okay. All right, Kush. Gave you a little love.
Thanks a bunch, Mike.
Podcast.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much, Mike.
We'll
Great
follow
opportunity.
up in a couple months. Thanks for your time, Kush. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Reilly. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor. On the video, all engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.